I only have 20 seconds a slide, so I'm going to have my cup of tea now. So you're probably wondering who I am. Well, I'm a serial entrepreneur, a connector, a podcaster, and I like to think I'm a person of influence. And I'm sort of that guy who knows everyone in town. But one thing I've never done, and that's read a book. Lately, well, in the last 4 or 5 years, I've actually discovered audiobooks. And so far, I've downloaded about 85 different audiobooks, and I can now understand what it's like when somebody goes to the movies and comes out and says the book was better. One of those books really has made a difference in my life recently. Crushing It by Gary Vaynerchuk. This book is all about building your own personal brand. Something I've been doing small style for the last few years. But when I read this book, it really inspired me. And what inspired me to do is think about starting my own podcast. But I didn't know how. So I got on the internet and I went through Facebook until I found a Facebook group that was designed to help people who wanted to start podcasting. And I wrote to the admin and I said, how do you podcast? And he came back to me in an email and he said, the podcast service I use is actually called Buzzsprout. So I went to buzzsprout.com and I had all these questions like how do you upload your podcast, how do you distribute it, how do you check the stats, and all those sort of questions. And I also wanted to know how much it cost. So I want to share that with you tonight. So the best thing I liked about Buzzsprout was once you had your video, your sound file, you upload it to their service and they broadcast it for you. And they also have different plans for people who squeak when they walk, like Mike, not Mike, Bob. They have a free plan and a paid service, and you pay by how much length your podcast is. So next thing I thought, wonder what equipment I need to do a podcast. So I went to YouTube and how to start your own podcast, and I found a whole lot of YouTube videos that told me the gear that I would need if I wanted to do a podcast. So I found a nice little bit of kit. It was called a Zoom H6, which is this. And basically what you see is what you get when you order one. They're about $700. And the good thing about this little bit of kit is you can record 6 different things at the same time. So you can mic people up and you can also plug your own microphones into it. So then I thought, oh, I wonder what type of microphone I need. Now that's a science in itself. All microphones are not the same. This particular microphone is about as big as it looks actually. It's got 4 different mics in it. For recording a room like this and a one-on-one conversation, you need different mics. This one has 4 in 1, which is really, really awesome. So the other thing, once you've had a go and you've got your voice files, you probably need a little bit of editing software. So the one that I use is called Camtasia 2. And I've had a little bit of experience in video and editing video. It's a lot easier because you only have to do soundtracks. So what I did, I found a nice wee catchy tune and I bookmarked every podcast that I do. If you're going to do a podcast, you really need to understand that content is king. So you need to think about how can I be consistent and make a podcast that people want to come back to. So I started thinking about what's around me and what sort of content I could use that I've already got to turn it into a podcast. So first of all, I'd like you to meet Helen. She's my personalised photographer, and she travels around New Zealand with me, taking photos of me in all sorts of places. And I've got some really good content in the way of images. The other thing I do is I own a business networking company, so I already have a lot of people around me, so I thought I could use them. So what I did, I got my company logo, because you need a nice icon if you're going to do a podcast, and I chopped it up a little bit, and the people that come to my business networking are called decision makers. And on a Friday, we run a meeting called Think Tank Fridays. And basically what I thought I'd do is sneak in a microphone and record it. So here's my meeting. I haven't got the microphone in that picture. But what's hard about recording a group of people like this having a discussion a theme discussion on a different topic each week, is people over-talking each other. So I had to come up with a way of managing that, but I'd already mastered that. I want you to meet my black bulls. Oh, here they are, another photo. Now these bulls are awesome, because what I do is I tell people who come along to my think tank meetings, there's 3 bulls. If you want to speak, you put your hand up. So the person speaking has the bull. And then if you want to talk, you put your hand up, give you a bull. But then if you talk too much, I'll pry the bull out of your hand, and that's your cue to stop. So for another bit of content, I thought I could do a smaller podcast during the week. And I have 108 questions that I ask people who come along. So I did a 12 questions with Danny mini podcast throughout the week. And I asked provoking questions like this to get people thinking. So I had regular, consistent content. So if you're wondering what it looks like once you've got your podcast online, if you went to Elite 6 and clicked on podcast, the left-hand side is what it looks like on a web browser, and the right-hand side is what it looks like on a mobile phone. Not that hard to do if you're wondering about how to go about it. Now I got a bit carried away, and after thinking about the book and what Gary said, I thought I want to better my personal brand. So now I started another podcast called What the Heck, and it's a podcast, and I'm thinking I need content, I need some regular stuff. And then I thought, well, I've been producing blogs for many years. Why don't I just go through my archive of blogs and make them a podcast? So I published my first blog on Saturday. One of my blogs was tips on battling loneliness. Read the blog, become familiar with it, and did a 40-minute podcast just by my thoughts around my blog. And then I had my rights to the content. So what I'm trying to say, if you're thinking about pushing yourself a bit more in your personal brand, why not start a podcast? And if you want some tips or some knowledge around it, I'll share my knowledge, experience and skills on dehek.com. Thank you.